Hi everyone, I'm reviewing your foundation plans and I want to remind you to take a look at the example drawings on Blackboard. So under Project 1 you have the Marseille residential building plans, construction prints, and the residential drawing sample. Let me just show you a few things on here that many of you are missing on your drawings. So first let's take a look at the residential example. One of the first things on the rubric discusses the foundation walls. So if you'll see here, this is the foundation wall, has the concrete hatch in it. Notice that the foundation wall is a thicker line type, so you need to look up in Revit how to adjust the line types to make that a thick wall. The other thing you're going to notice is if we come around this wall that there is a dimension provided in here. So you can see that this is a 10-inch wall, and this wall is also labeled right here, so it says 10-inch concrete wall. Don't worry about the PSI of the concrete or the rebar right now. We're not that far into your project, but at least show the correct line type, dimension here, and show this leader line just like this. Second thing on the rubric is the pier/footings foundation walls. So you're going to see the footings here that are under the foundation wall are a hidden line, and there's no hatch on those footings. So a lot of you have the concrete hatch shown the surface pattern, which is dots. You want to turn that hatch off, and you want to make sure that it looks just like this so that there's no hatch and that the footers are a hidden line type. The other thing that should be hidden lines are any of your piers that are shown. The pier footings need to be hidden lines, and then the piers themselves need to be bold lines. And they're bold because they're being cut through in the plan view. Openings. Okay, so we're dealing with a crawl space here, and we need to have an opening for that. So what you'll have is an access door, and it's just simply a little door that's in the side of the concrete wall. And it's going to be, you can use this 32 by 24 inches crawl space access, that's fine. Just make sure that it doesn't go down through the footing. It's just a very small opening that someone has to crawl through to get underneath here. For the vents, they're not shown on this drawing, but you'll probably put a vent across the way from the door, and that's just to allow some cross ventilation under the crawl space. Okay, for the porch footings, make sure that if you have a deck and it's a wood deck, you're going to need joists underneath that deck. And to support those joists, you have to have some sort of beam or something that rests out here on these piers. So that's what you're looking at in this image. This is a pier, and then there's a post, a pier. This is round with a post. And if you take a look at plan view, you'll see that this is a deck right here, and everywhere where there's this little square with an X indicates that there's a post there for structure. So make sure that you have that stuff shown properly. Going back to the inside of the house, you do want to indicate where your beams and joists are. And I'm actually going to switch to the Marseille residential building to show you an example of this because it's drawn a little bit better. Okay, so you can see here we have a footer and we have a column right here. This is a basement, so it's going to be slightly different. But what I want you to take note of is this line right here. You have a phantom line, and it's bold, and it's running across each one of those columns. Alright, so this is how we indicate the beam. So I need you to draw this phantom line, and just use the Annotate tab, use a detail line, and change it to this line type. The other thing you want to do is indicate your floor joist span. So you'll see here you have an arrow with a line and then an arrow. This is indicating that the joists are spanning from this wall to this beam right here. And then it writes 2 by 10 floor joists at 16 inches on center, OC. So you definitely want to have this included on your drawing. So you don't have to draw out every joist and every beam, but you do have to draw this line type right here showing your beam, and you have to draw this icon right here to show your joist span. If we go back to those residential drawings, you might also see the joist span indicated like this. That's fine if you want to draw it that way too, but the beam should not be drawn in this way. It should just be drawn with this line type right here. Some other things that I noticed on your drawings were they're missing a north arrow, so make sure anytime that you're working on a plan drawing, there is a north arrow present, so you want to do that. The other thing was dimensioning the building entirely. So you can see here that I have a couple different sets of dimensions. I have dimensions to the foundation wall, and I'm pulling out those dimensions all around the building. So make sure that you are dimensioning your entire exterior of your building. Also make sure that you are putting a dimension on your drawing for, let me switch back here, for the footer. So you'll see here that this is a 2-foot dimension for the footer. You do not need to dimension the inside of the building as shown in this example, but you do need the dimensions around the entire outside. The other thing too is if you have a concrete slab for a porch, what you're going to write is something like this, unexcavated, and then just write 4-inch poured concrete slab over gravel fill. Don't worry about the number 4 bars and the rebar because you don't know that information yet, but you can at least write this information, and you do have to still show if there's some sort of wall underneath there. You're going to need to show that foundation wall, and you're going to need to show the footing. Okay, so this, in this case, there's a back porch right here, and then there's also a front porch here, but it has a wall underneath it. So if we look at this in elevation, just for a little bit more clarity, you will see this is that porch right here. Here's the slab for it, but it still has a foundation wall underneath it. This is also that window that we're talking about, maybe the access window. And again, this is a basement, so yours would be a lot shorter than this example. The last thing I want to talk about again is the project number. This is 2018-52. The date should be 3/19/18. That's the date that this assignment was assigned. The author is your initials, the checker are my initials. The project name is either Vacation House. Well, it is Vacation House, that's what you should have. And the plan is Foundation Plan. So please make sure that you have that information correct on your drawings. If you are still struggling with making your footer a hidden line, please search Google for some ideas of how to change that, and then look through the different forums to try to problem solve. The other thing that you're going to need to do is to make your foundation lines a bold line. So you want to search line weights in Revit, and then that will allow you to make your foundation wall a bolder line.